Hey everybody, it's Bob here from the Bob David Moore Show. Well, stop me if you've heard this before. Seahawks start the game out poorly. Entire first half, terrible. Can't do anything defensively, can't do anything offensively. They are shut out by the 49ers. Now, the one thing you could say is, well, the defense held the 49ers to a couple of field goals. Okay, still 13-0. Nothing was going well. Second half, the offense finds a rhythm somehow. Not really sure what changed. Pete's never very specific about it, but they start executing, make a game of it. Ultimately, they get in their own way towards the end of the game, in the final drive, actually. Now, listen, there's a couple of controversial moments here. A missed pass interference penalty. I acknowledge, huge miss by the officials. Jacob Hollister absolutely interfered with. I don't think any objective, rational football fan would look at that and say otherwise. But that's not in their control. They can't control what the officials do or do not call. It stinks. I was as angry as anybody. They can't control that. Here's what they can control. Delay of game. Delay of game when you've got the ball on the 1 yard line and you've got Marshawn Lynch ready to come into the game and somehow there's confusion. Somehow we can't get our personnel right. They clocked the ball and acted as if they'd called a timeout, and they took a delay of game penalty, which brings them back 5 yards. Ultimately, they do complete a pass to Jacob Hollister that gets them about an inch away, maybe less, from the goal line. That's not necessary if you don't get in your own way. That's unacceptable. It cannot happen. Sorry, Pete, coaching staff, you blew it. You blew it on that play. We can talk about the poor tackling. We can talk about the things they didn't do in the first half. Bottom line is you overcame all of the mistakes. You overcame all of the lack of execution to get yourself within 1 yard of winning this game and winning the division. And you took a delay of game penalty.
The Seahawks will indeed be playing on the road in the wildcard round of the playoffs following their loss to the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night. Pete Carroll said after the game he felt fortunate to be down by just 13 by halftime. And to be honest, they were fortunate to be down by just 13 points at halftime. They were outplayed on both sides of the ball. Special teams actually played pretty well, but on offense and defense, they really struggled to keep pace with the 49ers. Seattle finally got things going in the second half. There was a touchdown by Marshawn Lynch that had the press box shaking with crowd noise. Seattle had a chance to win it late, a couple seconds left on the clock at the 1 yard line. Unfortunately blew that chance with a delay of game penalty. Pete Carroll afterwards said that it was an issue with substitutions, not getting those calls in time, communication problems. Ultimately just took the blame himself. Overall though, I actually agree with Danny O'Neill's opinion. He wrote a column for 710 Sports where he talked about feeling slightly more confident about this team despite the loss. They were 1 of 12 on third down last week against the Cardinals. Were 8 of 14 this week. Had over 100 yards on the ground again. A good performance by rookie running back Travis Homer, who had the tough job of filling in for starter Chris Carson. And against a healthier San Francisco 49ers team, and to be honest, a 49ers team that's just played better this year and looks every bit the part of a Super Bowl contender, you came within a couple inches of beating them and taking the NFC West. The big question for this week against the Eagles isn't whether or not you're going to make the same mistake for a delay of game. It's going to be about the health of players. So you're looking to see if Michael Kendricks can come back from that knee sprain. You're looking to see if Quandre Diggs can make it back in time. He's missed a couple games with a high ankle sprain. Carroll said that he'd have to run at full speed, show change of direction, but has a good chance to get back. Still going to be a late week decision. We're going to be talking about the game from noon to 3 on 710 ESPN Seattle. You can tune in there or on the 710 ESPN Seattle Sports app.
Competing videos.
1 inch. That is how close the Seattle Seahawks were to winning the NFC West. Instead, they're now going to have to fly about 3,000 miles across country to take on the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in the first round of the playoffs next Sunday. They were so close, and it's fitting that some of the problems that we've seen from the Seahawks all season long reared their ugly head and finally did them in. First off, in the 26-21 loss to the San Francisco 49ers, Seattle's offensive line, it just isn't very good. I know Russell Wilson was only sacked once in this game, but man, he was running for his life, and every single yard that Seattle got offensively seemed to require way too much effort. Second, defensively, I don't know if it's because of their obsession with the base 4-3 defense or if it's just because they're not very good at tackling, but San Francisco's trio of George Kittle, Emmanuel Sanders, and Deebo Samuel pretty much did whatever they wanted over the course of this one. Having a Quandre Diggs back would be very helpful, and maybe he'll be able to go against Philadelphia. But San Francisco offensively was way too much for this banged-up Seattle defense. And worst of all, game management. Who else was surprised that Pete Carroll had 3 timeouts when San Francisco had a chance to ice the game with about, 3.5 minutes left? He used all the timeouts properly, and Russell Wilson led the Seahawks down to San Francisco's 1-yard line for a first and goal situation. They spiked the ball. Marshawn Lynch dramatically trots onto the field, and then there was a delay of game. How does that happen after a spike? I'm not sure. And while I'm frustrated that there wasn't a pass interference review on Jacob Hollister's possible pass interfered with play in the end zone, I can't help but point at the Seahawks doing themselves in. It's second and goal at the 1. You know you have no timeouts left, and you just are too slow getting a running back onto the field. Inexcusable, and it's probably the reason that the Seahawks will be playing on the road next weekend in the playoffs.